You want us to… what? General Kurthak's mandibles twitched in what his species considered an expression of extreme skepticism, his crystalline eyes fixed on the small, squishy human before him. Teach your troops yoga, Sarah repeated, maintaining her cheerful smile despite the towering alien's obvious disbelief. And maybe some meditation techniques, for stress management. The general's second-in-command, Commander Vzekth, let out a sound that might have been a snort if their respiratory system worked anything like a human's. These are the galaxy's most elite warriors, trained from hatching to be the perfect killing machines. They don't need your primitive relaxation rituals. Sarah shrugged, her casual dismissal of their authority making several of the gathered alien officers bristle visibly. Look, you guys came to us because your troops are burning out faster than a cheap lighter at a rock concert. Your words, not mine. She paused, glancing at her tablet. Well, your exact words were experiencing unprecedented rates of combat inefficiency due to psychological strain. But same difference. The thing about being the galaxy's most feared species, a reputation humans had accidentally acquired simply by surviving on what other species called a death world, was that it made everyone assume you had all the answers. Humanity's apparent ability to thrive under conditions that would break most species had led to some interesting consultancy opportunities, like this one. Our warriors do not require, General Kurthak began, but Sarah cut him off with the kind of fearlessness that only comes from being a yoga instructor who regularly dealt with stressed-out corporate executives. Your warriors are having panic attacks mid-battle, General. They're freezing up during routine operations. And why? Because you've trained them to be perfect weapons, but forgot they're still people. Well, alien people, but you get my point. The assembled alien officers exchanged uncomfortable glances. Their species didn't actually have sweat glands, but Sarah could swear they were sweating. Besides, she added with a grin, if your troops are half as tough as you claim, surely they can handle a little stretching. And that's how, 3 standard cycles later, Sarah found herself standing before rows of 8-foot-tall, heavily armored alien super soldiers, all attempting to master the downward-facing dog pose. No, Sergeant ZXVK, your thorax needs to be more parallel to the ground. Yes, like that. And Captain Yirthel, those extra limbs are an advantage, not a curse. Think about how amazing your warrior's pose could be. The most amusing part wasn't watching the mighty warriors struggle with basic poses. It was the way they approached it with the same intensity they brought to combat training. They treated each position like a battle stance, each breathing exercise like a military drill. One particularly dedicated warrior, Lieutenant Krexus, had taken to meditation with surprising enthusiasm. The void of inner peace, he had declared solemnly, is not unlike the void of space. Both require perfect balance to navigate. Sarah had just nodded, deciding not to mention that this was basically a space yoga version of wax on, wax off. The real breakthrough came during what the aliens now called the incident. A routine training exercise had gone wrong, with live ammunition involved. In the past, such situations had led to catastrophic breakdowns. This time, however, the troops remained calm. They regulated their breathing, maintained their focus, and handled the crisis with unprecedented efficiency. General Kurthak's report to High Command became something of a legend. The human relaxation techniques, initially dismissed as primitive rituals, have proven extraordinarily effective in combat situations. Our warriors now demonstrate improved focus, enhanced stress management, and superior tactical decision-making. Additionally, several units have reported that the child's pose is particularly effective for post-battle recovery. The report concluded with what might be the greatest understatement in galactic military history. Perhaps we should consider other human wellness practices. I hear something called mindful coloring might be beneficial for our artillery units. Sarah's favorite moment came during the graduation ceremony for the first batch of warrior yogis. Lieutenant Kurexis, now the designated meditation instructor for new recruits, approached her with the formal rigidity his species was known for. "Instructor Sarah," he said, his voice carrying across the ceremony hall, "we have adapted one of your human sayings for our new combat doctrine. Keep calm and warrior on." Sarah managed to maintain her professional composure for almost 3 seconds before bursting into laughter. The best part? Several of her alien students joined in, their various forms of alien laughter creating a bizarre but heartwarming chorus. "You know what the funniest part of all this is?" Sarah later confided to her human colleagues. "These supposedly unstoppable super soldiers turned out to be the most dedicated yoga students I've ever had. They're already talking about introducing meditation pods in their battleships and making pre-battle stretching mandatory." The impact of Sarah's primitive relaxation rituals eventually spread beyond the military. Soon, alien diplomats were requesting human mindfulness instructors, and interstellar business conferences began featuring cross-species stress management workshops. 5 years later, Sarah found herself addressing the Galactic Council, a situation she'd never imagined when she'd first agreed to teach yoga to alien warriors. The agenda? The official recognition of human holistic combat enhancement methodologies as a standard part of military training across all allied species. "I must admit," rumbled Supreme Commander Herclax, his crystalline carapace gleaming under the council chamber's lights. "When I first heard about warriors practicing these poses, I thought the human death world had finally driven them mad." Scattered laughter echoed through the chamber. Sarah noticed several council members attempting to discreetly stretch in their seats, old students of hers, no doubt. "But the statistics are undeniable," Herclax continued. "Combat efficiency up 47%, mental health incidents down 82%, and most surprisingly," he paused for effect, "our warriors actually seem—" A junior officer whispered something to Herclax, who nodded sagely. "Ah, yes, and I'm told our medical division is particularly excited about something called hot yoga, though there seems to be some concern about the potential effects on species with exoskeletons." Sarah stepped up to the podium, surveying the assembled galactic leadership. "The funny thing is," she began, "humans developed these techniques precisely because we come from a death world. When your planet tries to kill you with everything from microscopic organisms to massive predators, you learn pretty quickly that brute force isn't always the answer." She gestured to a holoscreen showing training footage from various military bases. Alien warriors of all species moved through sun salutations, their movements increasingly fluid and natural. Sometimes the key to surviving isn't about being the strongest or the most heavily armed. Sometimes it's about being able to take a deep breath, touch your toes, and remember that the universe isn't actually out to get you. She paused. "Well, usually." The highlight of the day came during the celebratory reception, when a group of veteran warrior yogis demonstrated their newly developed combat meditation formation. It was essentially a group meditation session performed in full battle armor, with plasma rifles held in perfect warrior pose alignment. As Sarah watched her students demonstrate their unique blend of military precision and mindful awareness, she couldn't help but smile. Somewhere out there, in the vast expanse of space, there were now battleships with meditation rooms, military bases with designated Zen gardens, and elite combat units starting their day with group chanting. "You know what the best part is?" Lieutenant Coraxis, now Colonel Coraxis, mused beside her. "The enemy doesn't know whether to be terrified or confused when they encounter our troops doing their pre-battle stretching routines." "Have you tried teaching them the power of positive affirmations yet?" Sarah asked innocently. The colonel's mandibles twitched in what she now recognized as their equivalent of a grin. "Next month's curriculum. We're calling it Tactical Motivation Enhancement." As the reception continued around them, Sarah overheard snippets of conversation that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. A Zerthakian battle master discussing the benefits of alternate nostril breathing for improved targeting accuracy. A Vexthlian shock trooper explaining to a group of cadets how meditation helped them better sync with their neural combat interfaces. The first annual Intergalactic Warrior Wellness Championship was, to put it mildly, an interesting affair. "Remember," Sarah addressed the assembled judges, a mix of human yoga instructors and alien combat specialists, "we're looking for both technical precision and warrior spirit. And yes, Commander Vexthal, they are allowed to keep their plasma rifles in hand during the inversions. We've been over this." The championship arena, originally designed for gladiatorial combat, had been repurposed with meditation cushions and yoga mats rated for everything from acidic exoskeletons to gravitational manipulation fields. The contestants' entrance alone was something to behold. Hundreds of elite warriors from across the galaxy, moving in perfect synchronization through a modified sun salutation that somehow managed to incorporate traditional battle stances from 17 different species. Sarah grinned. "Yep." The Vulcanian fleet insisted on performing their new Formation Floating Lotus. Apparently they found that synchronized ship movements in geometric patterns help with crew coherence or something. The competition categories were unique, to say the least. Combat meditation, heavy weapons division, extreme environment yoga, 0G category, synchronized battle stance flow, multi-limbed manifestations for species with 4+ appendages, plasma rifle vinyasa, psychic pressure point meditation, telepathic species only. The highlight of the event came during the Freestyle Combat Zen category, when a ZX Thracian warrior performed what could only be described as a perfect fusion of ancient martial arts and advanced yoga, all while maintaining a level of mindfulness that had the psychic judge's antennae tingling. "Beautiful form," Sarah commented to her fellow judge, a retired war priest from the Uxthar system. "Though I'm pretty sure that last move would be anatomically impossible for about 60% of known sentient species." "Indeed," the war priest rumbled. "But did you notice how his auxiliary breathing ports maintained perfect rhythm throughout the inverse gravity segment? Most impressive." The championship trophy, a peculiar fusion of traditional meditation symbols and military insignia, eventually went to an unexpected victor, a collective consciousness of microscopic warriors who had performed a stunning demonstration of what they called quantum-entangled enlightenment. "We are honored," the collective buzzed through their translator. "Though we must admit, holding the warrior pose is significantly easier when you can distribute yourself across multiple quantum states." The afterparty was where things really got interesting. Nothing quite like watching battle-hardened veterans from across the galaxy comparing flexibility techniques and trading tips on meditation, cushion modifications for various anatomical requirements. "I still can't believe how far this has come," Sarah mused to Colonel Crexus, as they watched a group of hive-mind warriors attempting to teach a blob species the concept of grounding exercises, particularly challenging when you're naturally amorphous. "Did you hear about the latest development in the Zerthakian fleet?" Crexus asked, mandibles twitching with amusement. "They've modified their battle cry. Instead of the traditional death to our enemies, it's now, may our enemies find inner peace. Or else." The success of the championship led to some interesting innovations in military technology. The Viexithalian Engineering Corps unveiled their new Tactical Tranquility Chambers, meditation pods specifically designed for battlefield deployment. The hive-mind warriors developed a new form of combat meditation that utilized their collective consciousness to achieve what they called synchronized spiritual superiority. Even the traditionally stoic crystalline entities of the Sphere system got in on the action, though their interpretation of yoga poses was uniquely geometric. "We find that aligning our facets in accordance with human chakra principles improves our energy conductivity by 47.3%, they explained in their characteristically precise manner. A young cadet raised their appendage, one of many. "Instructor Sarah, is it true that humans also have something called goat yoga?" Sarah's expression must have been interesting because Colonel Crexus immediately activated their recording device. "Oh boy," she said. "That's going to require a whole new training program." The goat yoga incident, as it came to be known in classified military documents, was both a diplomatic breakthrough and a logistical nightmare. "No, Supreme Commander," Sarah explained for the third time, rubbing her temples. "We can't use Exerthakian void beasts as substitutes for goats. I understand they're technically quadrupedal, but they also phase through solid matter and occasionally eat space-time." The problem was, once alien military forces learned about goat yoga, everyone wanted in on what they assumed was an advanced form of human combat training. This led to a series of increasingly bizarre attempts to recreate the experience with local fauna from various worlds. The hive-mind warriors tried using their equivalent of goats, telepathic herd creatures that communicated entirely through interpretive movement. This resulted in what Sarah could only describe as a cross between yoga and a flash mob, with both warriors and creatures spontaneously breaking into synchronized dance routines. The crystalline entities attempted to partner with their silicon-based herd beasts, which went surprisingly well until someone discovered that the combination of certain yoga poses and crystal resonance frequencies could accidentally create small quantum fluctuations. "On the bright side," one researcher noted, "we may have accidentally discovered a new form of faster-than-light travel." But it was the Zexthrakian attempt that really took the cake. They decided to use their native thunder grazers, massive floating creatures that absorbed electrical storms for sustenance. The resulting session, conducted during an ionic storm, produced what witnesses described as the most metal yoga class in galactic history. The real game-changer came when someone, Sarah suspected Colonel Crexus, leaked footage of the human practice of office yoga to the Galactic Administrative Corps. The result? The next Galactic Council session featured mandatory stretch breaks. The sight of the galaxy's most powerful bureaucrats doing desk stretches with their various appendages, tentacles, and occasionally extra-dimensional limbs was something Sarah wished she could share with her old yoga instructor back on Earth. "The Form 27B must be filed with proper posture alignment," became the new mantra of the Galactic Administrative Corps. They even modified their infamous waiting rooms to include meditation corners and anti-gravity stretch stations. The diplomatic corps wasn't far behind. Negotiations now routinely included mindful communication exercises and cross-species stress relief protocols. More than one potential interstellar conflict was averted by the timely suggestion of a group breathing exercise. Remember, Sarah found herself explaining to a panel of alien diplomats, it's hard to maintain hostile intentions when you're trying to touch your toes, or whatever appendage your species considers equivalent to toes. The movement reached its pinnacle with the establishment of the first Intergalactic Institute of Human Wellness Integration, HFY, a massive space station designed to look like a lotus flower. Each petal housed different training facilities, from zero-gravity meditation chambers to battle yoga arenas. During the opening ceremony, Sarah watched with a mixture of pride and amusement as representatives from across the galaxy demonstrated their species' unique interpretations of human wellness practices. The Quantum Collective performed probability field meditation, existing in all possible relaxation states simultaneously. The gaseous consciousness clouds demonstrated nebula stretching, which looks suspiciously like interpretive dance. The time-displaced warriors of Zekis Thor showed off their temporal Tai Chi, which somehow occurred both before and after you watched it. But it was the graduation ceremony of the first class of certified intergalactic wellness instructors that really drove home how far things had come. Beings of all species, shapes, and dimensional states stood, or floated, or existed in probabilistic form, to recite the new oath. We swear to maintain harmony in the galaxy, one breath at a time, and if that fails, we have plasma rifles and know how to use them mindfully. Sarah's personal favorite moment came during the after-party, when a group of veteran warriors admitted they'd started a book club. We're currently reading ancient human military texts, one explained. This Art of War by Sun Tzu has some fascinating parallels with our meditation practices. Though we're a bit confused about this chicken soup for the soul concept, another added. Is it a ritual combat broth? As Sarah watched a hive-mind warrior trying to teach a blob species how to do a proper Warrior 3 pose, still a work in progress, she couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come. From teaching basic yoga to alien super soldiers to establishing an entire institution dedicated to combining human wellness practices with galactic military traditions. You know what the best part is? Colonel Crexus commented, now sporting a Namaste or else badge on their battle armor. The enemy forces are starting to request wellness training too. Apparently our troops are just too zen in battle and it's freaking them out. The first sign that enemy forces were seriously adopting human wellness practices came during what should have been a routine space battle. Sarah? Colonel Crexus called her in the middle of a meditation session. We may have a situation. The Verkath Dominion fleet we're currently engaged with they just requested a timeout for their afternoon meditation. The recording of the incident became required viewing at the Academy. Enemy Commander. Clearing throat tentacles. In accordance with Article 7 of the Mindful Combat Protocols, we hereby request a temporary cessation of hostilities for scheduled wellness maintenance. Allied Fleet. Visible confusion. Come again? Enemy Commander. Look, we've been at this for 6 hours. Our combat efficiency is dropping, and according to the human texts we've acquired, this is precisely when we should be doing our tension release exercises. There was a long pause before the Allied commander responded. Only if you join our post-battle yoga session. And that's how the galaxy witnessed its first synchronized fleet meditation break in the middle of active combat operations. The sight of opposing battleships arranged in a rough approximation of a mandala pattern would have been surreal enough, but then someone started broadcasting calming whale songs across all frequencies. The wellness arms race, as historians would later call it, led to some interesting developments. The Verkath Dominion established their own Center for Aggressive Relaxation Studies. The Swarm Collective began practicing what they called hostile mindfulness. The Devourer fleets introduced mandatory meditation breaks between planetary consumptions. The situation reached peak absurdity during the Battle of Nexus 6, when both sides discovered they had booked the same space-time coordinates for their respective retreat programs. Well, this is awkward, Sarah muttered as she stared at the competing event schedules. Both sides had planned everything from mindful marksmanship to tactical tea ceremonies. The solution? The galaxy's first joint enemy-allied wellness retreat. The official documentation listed it as a temporary armistice for mutual psychological maintenance, but everyone knew it was basically space summer camp for warriors. Highlights included a most mindful warrior competition that ended in a tie when both contestants achieved such deep meditation, they temporarily ascended to a higher plane of existence. A cultural exchange program where different species taught their unique interpretations of human wellness practices. The infamous Combat Yoga Olympics, where someone accidentally invented a new form of martial arts. The retreat's success led to the establishment of regular, wellness-neutral zones, spaces where warriors from all factions could practice together without fighting. Well, except for the occasional heated debate about proper breathing techniques. Back at the Institute, Sarah found herself teaching a new course. Advanced Cross-Faction Harmony. Making Peace with Making Peace. The class roster read like a who's who of former mortal enemies. Today, she announced to her class, we'll be practicing partner exercises. The collective groan from the assembled warriors almost breached the hull's structural integrity. Yes, I know, she continued. Last time the Quantum Hive tried to partner with the temporal vortex beings, we had that unfortunate causality loop incident. But that's exactly why we need this practice. The exercises went surprisingly well, aside from a minor incident when the crystalline entity tried to sync breathing patterns with the gaseous consciousness cloud. How was I supposed to know they'd form a new state of matter? The real breakthrough came during the first Galactic Wellness Summit, where former enemies sat down to draft what would become known as the Namaste Accords, the galaxy's first peace treaty based on mindfulness principles. Key points included mandatory cooldown periods after intense space battles, the right to request meditation breaks during invasions, standardized protocols for battlefield yoga sessions, regulations regarding the proper use of Om chanting in sonic warfare, guidelines for mindful use of planet-destroying superweapons. The signing ceremony was briefly interrupted when everyone realized they'd synced their breathing so perfectly they'd created a temporary psychic link. The resulting group enlightenment accidentally solved 3 minor border disputes and created 2 new forms of mathematics.